All right, everybody, we will get started. Welcome. We are thrilled you're here today. And on behalf of Credential Innovation Network, welcome to our UPCEA webinar, where colleagues connect about issues of professional relevance. My name is Syra Cooper, and I am the Executive Director of Operations at Rice University in Houston, Texas. Today, we'll be discussing conferences to credit, how Chico State and CTA scaled teacher PD into transcripted university credit. Before we get started, if you'd like to know more about the Credential Innovation Network, please feel free to reach out to any of the network leaders on the call today. And if you'd like to know more about UPCEA networks, we'll drop a link in the chat for you guys to access that. If you're new to UPCEA, we welcome you. And if you're new to the network, welcome. If you're new to Zoom webinar, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A. We'll be monitoring that. And if you need assistance, reach out. We have the wonderful UPCEA team present as well. Just a reminder that this session will be recorded and it'll be available for UPCEA members in core. So let's get started with some introductions. Joining me today is Chloe Mayday. She's the Senior Program Success Specialist for Professional and Continuing Education at California State University, Chico. And Chloe is joining with her colleague Anne Nicolai. Anne is the PCE Program Director at Chico State and Chair-elect for UPCEA Community and Economics Engagement Network. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, Anne, you're muted.
All right, got the video on, missed part 2. Thank you so much, Syra, for the introductions. Welcome everybody. I thought I'd take just a minute to provide a little bit more information about what you can expect today. The partnership between California State University Chico's Professional and Continuing Education and the California Teachers Association showcases how continuing education can transform professional learning into a lasting impact. And together, our team has created a program that converts teachers' professional development hours into transcripted university credit, an innovative model that rewards lifelong learning, supports career advancement, and strengthens teacher retention across California. Through smart, sustainable scaling, this collaboration has grown from just a few hundred enrollments a few years ago to more than 76,000 units annually, benefiting thousands of educators while generating meaningful revenue to reinvest in Chico State's mission. It's really a story of innovation, access, and mutual benefit that shows the power of continuing education to serve both learners and institutions. And my colleague, Chloe Mayday, is going to sort of walk you through. She's been part of sort of the reinvention of this program over the last 5 years and made it possible for us to scale, and she'll tell you how.
Great, thank you, Anne. Melissa, do you mind sharing those slides? Thank you. So as Anne said, this webinar is going to be about conferences to credits, how Chico State and CTA scaled teacher PD into transcripted university credits. If you could go to the next slide, please. So where this kind of started is in California, there's a huge teacher shortage of people not wanting to become teachers and teachers leaving the profession. Part of this is due to low pay. Teacher salaries lag behind what other college-educated professions offer. And most areas in California are extremely expensive to live in. So the low pay doesn't justify staying in a profession in a state where a lot of teachers can't afford to live in. Also, there's a lot of burnout in California teachers. they're increasingly likely to quit the profession due to excessive workloads, lack of administrative support, and feelings of being underappreciated. And then the cost of credentialing also plays into it. The cost and length of credentialing processes deter many students from pursuing a career in teaching. In California, it takes 4 years in a bachelor's degree program and then an additional year to become a credentialed teacher. And in the credentialing process, a lot of times it might not be covered by financial aid. So that's a big barrier to becoming a teacher. And then also the pandemic just really impacted these shortages statewide. And as I mentioned before, the high cost of living is increasing, and while teacher salaries are staying the same, if not getting like a 2% increase every year, just as a general baseline. So the cost of living is not equating to what a salary should be to be able to live in the state of California. Next slide, please. So, California Teachers Association, will refer to it as CTA, has been in inception since 1863 and has been dedicated to ensuring equal access, justice, and resources for all California students, teachers, and classrooms. They have just over 330,000 members and 25 in-person conferences annually. CTA has always prioritized the professional development of its educators, which is how this program kind of became a thing. So next slide. So the University Credit Program was born multiple decades ago, actually, but it has transformed since the COVID-19 pandemic into what it is today. So it used to just be that teachers would go to these in-person conferences. We would maybe get a couple hundred a year, and they would get university credits. When the pandemic happened, there was a shift and people could no longer attend conferences. So what they started doing was recording essentially virtual sessions and putting it into an online library where teachers could access and watch these videos to earn units. So the way the program is based is 15 hours of professional development time is equivalent to one professional development unit. The units are 800 level. So at Chico State, that means they're professional development level. So it's credit, no credit. It shows on an academic transcript, but it doesn't count towards a degree or a GPA. So that's kind of the stipulation, which in California, a lot of school districts don't want CEU units. They want actually academic credits. So this has really blown up. And essentially they're both getting professional development and they're increasing on their salary schedule, which means a lot to these teachers. So they can accumulate their professional growth hours either in-person conferences or online in the virtual library that's always updated. And our faculty at Chico State vet the videos and the conferences that these teachers are getting credit for to make sure that they are in line with current academia. And the really great part is that CTA pays for 12 units a year for these teachers. So they pay for 12 units, and then the CTA members are also allowed to pay for an additional 3 units on top of that. And the cost of those units are $85, which compared to a lot of other ways that they can get units is really, really cheap. And like I said, they use this to advance on their salary schedules, and it's one of the only ways that teachers can. CTA does survey them every year, and the last time they were surveyed, they saw a range of salary increases from $500 to $20,000, with the average being $3,500. So this helps educators stay in the profession, reduce financial stress, and be more present with their students. Another really, really huge impact is on rural schools. A lot of people think California is by the beach and city, and they think of LA and San Francisco, but a huge part of California is in rural areas where some school districts have literally one teacher and one office staff who does everything, and they can't afford to go to these conferences and get in-person professional development. So this is kind of a way to bring equity to those school districts and those schools and those teachers and those kids, to bring that to them. So it's really helped a lot, especially in rural areas. Next slide. So this goes to show the scale of how fast the program has grown. Back in 2020, 2021, you could see we delivered 12,000 units. And this last school year, we delivered 76,000 units, which is a very, very large increase. And with that comes a lot of growing pains and figuring out what the heck we're going to do to sustain continued growth and keep up with the requests because it was causing a lot of staff burnout, a lot of problems on campus. It's not just our department that it affects multiple other departments who help us do this program because there's finances on the back end, there's transcripts that need to be reported, there's grades due, XYZ. So we were kind of faced with a problem, and back in 2023, we all had to sit down and figure out what the heck we were going to do to make sure we could keep up with the growth. Next slide. So a part of that was ensuring that everybody understood that it was a mutually beneficial exchange. Teachers are growing and advancing. We're putting back into the economy. Teachers are also getting their name of Chico State, and it's good for our school. We give out pennants to everybody that they put in their classrooms, and we also have a lot of large educational-based programs that Chico State offers, so it kind of helps get our name out there. It's also a really large source of alternative revenue for Chico State. Last fiscal year, we had over $4 million in cost recovery revenue that goes back to campus. So PCE, that's the department I work in, is a self-support department, meaning we don't get any state funding. So with that comes, we have to pay a portion of our fees back to our campus partners. And in a time like right now, where the CSU system is in crisis, that money is really, really, really important to our campus, but a lot of departments weren't realizing that they were getting this mutually beneficial exchange to them. They were just thinking, oh, well, I'm spending all my time delivering transcripts for these teachers and my department's not benefiting from it. So kind of doing the dog and pony show and getting them to understand that they are benefiting from it and this is how, and this is the great things that we're doing in the state of California. So that came down to building partnerships really with the Office of the Registrar and the Division of IT because we needed both of their help to make the program what it is today and figure out a way that we could do continued sustainable growth because I think our program has so far touched about 17,000 teachers, and there's 330,000 that we have the capacity to touch. So we're not even to the tip of the iceberg. So we really needed to figure out what we were going to do. Next slide. So we had an exponential increase. In 2020, we had 500 units to 76,000 units last year. We had manual systems and legacy processes that became unsustainable. Every time I went to do the dog and pony show, especially to the IT team, they were like, "What in the heck do you guys do?" And I was like, "This is what we have to do." That like I've looked at every way possible, and without new systems and your help, this is the best that we can do. And it was a lot of downloading data, importing them, pivot tables. Like you basically needed 3 screens just to be able to deliver 1 unit. And it was extremely unsustainable. It caused our staff to turn over for a few years every 6 months because it was such a tedious process. And nobody wants to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. It was also causing other staffing issues and processing issues in other departments. One of the departments said, I didn't know anyone could break Excel because we literally did break it, trying to do it the way that we had done it in the past. And so we needed to find a balance between accessibility for teachers and institutional capacity, but we needed to do it on a really short time frame to figure it out because the growth was happening. We were doubling our numbers every semester. We couldn't sustain it. Our growth was outpacing our infrastructure and it was affecting our quality of service. Next slide. So we sat around a table 2 summers ago now with all the key players and decided we need to come up with a strategic response to this type of growth and the continued sustained growth that we were going to continue and see. So we partnered with CTA and our campus IT to co-design an innovative tech solution. We had to leverage the existing systems that we already had in place, so it wasn't costly. We weren't building new software and having to go through all of those processes. And essentially what we did is we streamlined the registration and the transcript request process. And we reduced processing time down to 2 to 3 days, which it used to be like 20 to 25 days. Um, and created scalable infrastructure to further expand our future. One of the things that we did in the first phase was we had CTA create a database within their CRM that auto-filled the members' information, and it essentially tracked the number of hours they were doing and whether or not they could request units. And so we had all of the information that we needed for that student in one screen rather than going 5 different places to find it. So that was the first phase of the project. CTA already had a CRM. Essentially, they just needed their developers to design a custom dashboard and request system. That took about a month to do, and we launched it last spring. And it worked fabulously. We had little to no problems with it. And then the next phase was working with a consultant and our IT team to automate the process, which is what I am currently working on right now. And so hopefully by February, the entire process will go from entirely manually a year ago to 100% automated this spring, if all goes as planned. And the only thing we're doing is we're leveraging Boomi, which is an external system, but everything else is systems that we already had in place and we just weren't using them creatively. Next slide. So our 24-25 milestones and recognitions, we processed over 76,000 units for 22,000 teachers. We logged 2.8 million professional development hours. The average teacher salary grew $3,500 annually and over $4 million for PCE campus reinvestment, which is really a huge win on our campus. And we have won state and national awards for our achievements. So we're really proud of this program and how we've scaled it. We couldn't have done it without our campus partners. And I think a lot of times when you work in self-support departments or you work in continuing ed departments where people don't really understand what you do and why you do it and how it benefits students and the campus and the community, it's extremely important to tell them your why and have them take the time to sit down and explain why this matters, what we're doing, and how we can make it better. And once you get that buy-in, it relieves a world of pain. Next slide. So that'll conclude my presentation. I know a lot of times people have a ton of questions, so feel free to ask them. One of the main questions we get is whether this could be scaled to other programs and industries. And one thing over the last year that we've noticed is word of mouth has traveled around California that we have this program. And so not every school district in California is a CTA member, although most are. So what we've been seeing is school districts and nonprofit institutions have been coming to us and asking us to essentially scale this model into a much smaller version to offer professional development units to their members. So it can be scaled. I think the biggest part is you need to have a partner like CTA who's willing to pay for the units for people, because I think that's what really makes this program expand. But yeah, feel free to ask questions.
Chloe, this isn't a question, but just congratulating you all for this amazing partnership and that it's a huge growth and amazing for teachers. And they're thanking you for sharing it. I mean, it's just awesome. Every time I hear about this, I'm in awe. We also run a K through 12 program, and something like this could really benefit, especially in a time when teachers are leaving this sector. And what a way to showcase that, there are ways we can help this. It really perked up my interest in, as you were talking about, the units are actually showing up on their transcript, because we know in at schools and universities they're kind of running parallel where you have your academic credentials in your transcripts, and then you have a alternative credential transcript. So can you talk a little bit about if there was any sort of conversation you or Anne about on the registration side, credit side on those transcripts and how those PDs were going to show up?
Yeah, so the way that our system is actually built is that an 800 level class, even though it is professional development, is worth academic credit that shows on a true official transcript from the registrar from Chico State. So like if you participated in a non-credit class or something that has an alternative credential that isn't for credit, in an academic sense, Chico State doesn't actually have a transcript to accumulate any of those classes that students take. And one thing that's become extremely evident in everything that we do is teachers need academic credit to be able to advance on their salary schedules. So the way that Chico State had already built out a system for the 800 level classes just fit in perfectly with our program. So we didn't actually have to have any battles on that end to get it on a transcript. But if anybody models this program that doesn't have that ability, I would definitely fight for it because that's what teachers need.
Gotcha. I have a few questions, so I'll kind of go through one at a time. So this question is, many of us at UPCEA work in similar departments with similar setups and develop infrastructures. How are you able to partner with CTA to provide similar services?
Yeah, so our partnership with CTA, as I said, started decades ago. How it started is we had a professor in the School of Education who was on the board of CTA. And CTA has an endowment of a certain percentage of their member dollars has to go towards member professional development. And so it kind of was a perfect storm to create this smaller scaled program to award units when teachers go to conferences. And so that's kind of how it started. And then since that person retired and a new person, her name's Susan Green, who we currently have, she stepped in to take his place and is she's all over the K-12 system in California. And she goes to all of these conferences and talks with these teachers and gets to know what they need and how we can help them and do all those sorts of things. But really, it was that personal connection that our faculty made way back in the day, and we've always just continued that relationship with CTA. We talk to them all the time because without them, we would not have this program, and they are a very valuable piece of it. Even if they left, sure, we still have the core of what it could be, but they're the bread and butter. They have 330,000 members. They have the money. Um, and so everything we do in regards to this program, we work directly with CTA to maintain that relationship and ensure they're not going to go looking somewhere else.
Gotcha. And this kind of piggybacks off of the earlier question regarding the units appearing on the transcript. And so how do they appear on the transcript? And then what term is used?
So it uses, like, for example, if I just registered somebody today for CTA, the term of this, it's the same term that any other degree program would use. So it's just the fall 2026 semester. We have a winter semester, a spring semester, and a summer semester. It shows up as a post-bac, and then it shows their program plan code, which we created a specific one for CTA. So it would show, you know, um, their record of 800 level development credit, their post-bac, and then it would show their program plan of what they're associated in, and then it lists the classes, the class numbers, and the class titles, and then the number of units that it's eligible for, and then it says credit.
Gotcha. And this question asks about, are the units you're offering now are for credit or non-credit? Also, if for credit, is the cost of $85 per unit or $85 for all 3 units?
It's all for credit and it's $85 per unit. And like I said, CTA pays for 12 of those units, so 12 units are free. But if you needed an additional 3 units, you could purchase those for $85. And the reason that we kind of built that scale is what we realized in the state of California. In most school districts, you need 15 units to be able to move up to the next step on your salary schedule. So essentially, if somebody participated in all 15 units of this program every year they'd move up a step.
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing because some of these questions are, because this is the connection we're trying to make with the credit and non-credit. And the next question is kind of in the same realm. It's asking about, so when you say academic credit, can they apply the credit towards a degree?
They can petition to apply it towards a degree. Yes. Does that happen? No. We're working on a few other programs where I don't think that they would be able to petition it towards a degree in this program, but we use 800 level credits in several other programs that are not teacher related, but are heavy on the content. And I think that you could easily get that translated into academic credit towards a degree.
Um, Before I pivot to policy question, I was just curious, what's the amount of PDs that are required for teachers? Because that's also driving the amount of units that they're getting. Um, so within this California state, they're needing certain amount of PDs every year, right?
Yeah, so generally I don't know what the minimum requirement is. I know for their credential status, they have to do a minimum requirement, and I'm not sure what that is. But our units would cover that they would have to turn into I can't even think of what the accreditation association is in California. But generally, we see them needing like 10 to 15 units a semester or a school year. And so that's how we modeled the program, but I'm not sure what their minimum number of units is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I think where more so I was gonna follow up on that one was these these credits are for any of the states that are teachers are always needing PDs and how this type of program could actually help them earn those without having to kind of navigate and figure it out where they're going to go and get that. So this next question is about how did you navigate policy approval, pushback in academic affairs, provost office restriction, academic senate. This is an innovative approach that doesn't easily fit into academic policy and often it evokes faculty and provost resistance.
Yeah, so 800 level professional development units are kind of a gray area in the academic system, at least at Chico State and in the CSU system. So 800 level classes, they don't have to go through academic senate or any official curriculum process. So like we kind of created our own internal checks and balances. So if somebody wants to create an 800 level class, usually it's done directly in conjunction with faculty, and we pull in subject matter experts to evaluate that curriculum to make sure it's up to date in what it should be. But it doesn't actually have to go through any of the formal academic practices that normal degree seeking classes would have to go through. So that eliminates a lot of the red tape. On our campus, we actually haven't gotten a lot of pushback on 800 level credit because there is pretty clear policy delineations about what it is. And it's very well known on our campus now because of this program. And the provost loves it because she gets money from it. And right now, money is king in the CSU. Um, Sometimes faculty will ask about who is evaluating the curriculum. And once we give that answer, everybody's totally fine with it.
I have another question, Papa, but I will do a follow-up to what you just said. But let me ask this question first. The 12 units that CTA will cover the cost of, is that for PD units that teachers are interested in getting, or is that specific to Chico's and CTA partnership?
It's specific to Chico and CTA's partnership, so it has to go through this university credit program. CTA solely partners with Chico State. They're not partnered with any other university to deliver units. So it has to be through this program.
And I'll add to CTA has a library of more than 300 training videos and professional development videos so that they're creating that content.
Yeah, and it's always being updated and refreshed. So, say one teacher really wants to focus on English curriculum, but the other teacher wants to focus on diversity. We have everything essentially that somebody could be looking for in our video library.
I love how you kind of talk about where you started from to now it's becoming sort of a scalability issue, and now you're looking at changing the systems and moving from one place to the other. What are some of the uh, best practices or, go here, not there, suggestions that you could have for all of us that are here today if we want to start on something like this?
Well, one, finding a really great partner is really key. And by partner, I mean like an external partner that you could partner with to provide programs like this. So maybe that's going to your local school districts and advocating to have programs like this where you build it into scale, or your teachers' unions. This could also be, you could go into healthcare and do stuff like this. But finding somebody that has a source of revenue that's willing to partner like in a program like this where they are also delivering the curriculum and the content, because Chico State's not doing that. So that's why it's really nice. We're evaluating what they're delivering, but we're not creating it, which is a huge burden on faculty is to be creating it. So you need to find a partnership where it already has those steps. They're just missing that academic piece, and that's where a university can step in and help. And then also, I think we, as in PCE, where I work, waited too long to ask for help and talk to our internal stakeholders and partners and figure out a solution. We kind of had to have this heart attack panic moment of not thinking we were not going to deliver these units in time before we started having those conversations, where really we should have had that conversation the year we saw it start booming and not just be like, oh, it's not going to double again, and then it just doubles again. Oh, it's not going to double again, and then it just keeps doubling, and then all of a sudden you're scrambling and like really thinking creative, because right, everybody has budget issues and like, oh, we don't want to go through the technology process that we have to go through with IT to bring on a new piece of technology, but think about the technology that you already have access to, and are you leveraging it in the correct way? And to me, I thought I was, but then I talked with IT and they have other databases that I just wasn't privy to. And then we connected all of those dots to build, like I said, in February, it'll be 100% automated process, where previously it would take 10 minutes to enroll somebody in their units. And now it'll be instantaneous, all because we started having these conversations with the right people and getting their buy-in to understand why this is important and why we have such a high need and why we need their time.
That's awesome. I have another question here. So even 800 level units are indicated as academic unit equivalencies to courses that are part of the teacher ed program, or are those 800 level courses indicated by a different course name in order to obtain units?
They are, so the teachers programs could use them, but really 800 levels designated for our department, for a CE department. So like the School of Education, if they wanted to offer an 800 level class, they have to do it through us. So it's kind of, that's why I said 800 levels kind of a mysterious gray area. And at some schools, it's called something different. At Chico State, that just happens to be the like unit level. So, like for example, a CTA unit would be EDTE 836B, and then we would create a title for it. So the numbering system is completely separate from the traditional academic census because it's designated in a different area where it has to be done through my department in the way that we do it.
I think we sort of talked about this at some point, but I'm just curious to hear about the unit that's evaluating the content, because I think some of the questions were kind of, since this is going to be an academic, and Faculty Senate for any of the academic courses take a very long time to evaluate. What's the process looks like to kind of looking at the content that's available through this program, and what's the committee that's approving it and what their process is?
Yeah, so it's not an official committee. So essentially, what we do is we work with the director of the School of Education and the faculty member, who her name is Susan. They evaluate all the content. And for example, like we partnered, this isn't part of CTA, but we modeled a program after it where it was like teaching journalism in schools. And we partnered with this nonprofit called Cal Matters, which is a big newspaper in California. And they were offering conferences and they want to offer professional development units. So they consulted with the journalism department to make sure while we, the School of Education faculty, knew the education piece, they wanted to make sure that the journalism department was cool on the journalism aspects that they weren't the subject matter experts on. So it's kind of an informal process. Or we had like an art education thing that came up, and the School of Ed director actually just sent it to the art ed department to evaluate. So it's kind of an informal process that goes directly through the director of school education and our main faculty point of contact. Her name's Susan.
And this is because of that special designation of the 800 level professional development units. It bypasses all of the Senate and other things that we would for academic credit that delivers grades. This is a credit, non-credit designator through PCE.
Gotcha. So what's the future looking like? Where do you guys see this? Is obviously it's awesome that the scale is just going up and up and up. Where do you guys see yourself in a year from now?
Um, with an automated pro so another part that I don't think I mentioned is this program's not advertised. So this growth has all just been by word of mouth. We've been trying to keep a cap on it because we needed to build these systems before we could open it up to the membership base and other folks who want to build similar processes. So I think we continue to see our numbers double. We've worked really diligently with our internal stakeholders and CTA to ensure that this is sustainable growth for the future. So I don't see this program slowing down anytime soon. I just see it going up from here, but also making the load on our shoulders a lot lighter while still helping doubling the amount of teachers that we're helping every year.
Definitely. I'm going to pause real quick and see if there are any other questions.
I have kind of a tactical clarification, Chloe, and
Yeah.
thank you for this presentation. It's wonderful to see our northern cousins doing really
Yeah.
great. The That's Northern California. The CTA, you mentioned that a lot of the people taking advantage of this are essentially doing it on a what I interpreted as a scholarship or a paid type
Yep.
of piece from CTA. Are there other people that are part of your audience set or that could be that are paying their own way?
To take part in this specific program, they have to be CTA members. If they are not a CTA member, they cannot take part of it. That said, we do have, excuse me, other professional development programs on a much smaller scale that teachers who are not part of CTA could pay their own way for.
So is this a benefit for CTA? Like they offer it as a you pay your
Yep.
you can get
And
12.
it's a big incentive for, I mean, it's a leverage of trying to get members to sign up, right? If you pay $50 a month, well, the cost of you getting a $3,500 raise every year versus what you're paying in fees, the benefit outweighs the cost. So I think it's a good leverage for them to get more members. But yeah, it's an only a member benefit, and they have to be a paying member of CTA.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That's a fascinating model and
Yeah.
thinking about like what other organizations do that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it might be helpful, you touched on it, Chloe, but maybe giving like Aim High or the Berkeley camp as an example. We're working with Crocker Museum of sort of smaller scale, but kind of accomplishing the same thing through the same channels.
Yeah, so like we partnered recently with Berkeley Labs. So UC Berkeley has a lab and they put on far above my knowledge base of some science camp and like techie computer science camp each summer. And for whatever reason, their institution didn't want to offer these kinds of credits. And they get teachers from all over California coming, and it's 100% paid for. So they partnered with us to deliver the units. We also partner with a a nonprofit organization called Aim High, and they essentially go into lower socioeconomic areas and provide professional development. So some of those schools might be CTA members, some of them might not, but that's another way that they could get some units paid for. So we've kind of modeled this CTA program into much smaller scale, targeted programs with other institutions that are willing to cover the costs.
Yeah. No, that's fascinating. And do you have your own like transcripting capability within your PCE department?
Nope, it all runs through the Office of the Registrar.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
I don't know how many CPE, like as a CPE, we have our own, but I think it could work the same way.
Interesting.
Are there any other questions?
And while you're waiting, I wanted to just take a minute to acknowledge Chloe's Herculean effort as well as our entire registration team, because as Chloe mentioned, the turnover and grind as we were trying to find our footing with the sort of just for a while unimaginable growth just really took a lot of perseverance and willpower to muscle it through and also to think it through and bring campus into that conversation. And that really Chloe led the way on that, and very appreciative.
Yes. So I have two more questions that popped up. Do you go out to find these partners, or are they coming to you? If you find them, where do you typically start?
This is what's kind of cool is they come to us. We don't go out and find them. I'm not kidding. Sometimes like I might have been in spring where Anna and I got three different inquiries from three, like a school district, a nonprofit, and some other institution where they wanted to do something similar. So they just find us, and it's because of the CTA program. The word of mouth just spreads. And I think it gets in some people's minds like, I wonder if we could do that. And then they reach out to Anna and I, and we set up a call and talk through what they're thinking and what they currently do and how we could help them.
That's awesome. And then this next question is about, is it 15 units per teacher per year or one-time opportunity to move up on pay scale?
It's per teacher per year. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with the group?
No, I think I covered everything, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to Ann and I. Sorry, I'm getting a little sick, so my voice is starting to go out, but we're happy to answer any questions. It's a really interesting program, and I think it can be modeled in other sectors. Like I said, it's just about finding the right sector and the right partner where there's a need.
Yes, and thank you both so much. It is just an awesome, awesome opportunity, and thank you both for sharing it with us. We will have the recording available along with the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint does have both Anne and Chloe's information available, so feel free to reach out. And again, I'd like to thank our speakers for joining us today. And if anybody has more, if you'd like more information, you may reach out to any one of us or Chloe and Ann. And again, just one more time, today's webinar is recorded and it'll be available on CORE. And again, thank you all so very much for joining us. Bye-bye.